All right. Hey, Meaghan Tyrrell, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. How has the first couple of weeks of 2023 been going?
It's been going pretty well, excited to be back on campus playing, with everyone again, and definitely looking forward to seeing some other competition.
So we were talking earlier that back in July of last summer, you and Sierra and Tessa and Meg Carney had decided, okay, we're going to come back. What has it been like as a fifth year? The good, the bad, like kind of go into what your decision was, what maybe was holding you back, and what you ultimately decided.
Yeah, I think, especially like with COVID happening, having that season missed, I think coming back was always sort of in the back of my brain, especially like once those initial seniors had that option to come back, and I knew that hopefully we'd be able to have that chance as well. So it was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then after my senior year ended and, it didn't end how we wanted it to, and there was a bunch of injury that went into it as well. And one of them, being my sister, when she went down, it was kind of my, yes, I want to come back. That was like when I kind of really decided it. Mm-hmm. And then coming back and like having Meg, Tessa, and Sierra here, it's just been so, comforting, to have people that have been here with me for 5 years, and Tessa comes here, she's here for her second year now, but having like Meg and C here has been so huge.
So talking about your sister, obviously that was probably a really hard thing to watch her go down like that. Can you kind of go into, what it's been like to play with her for pretty much your entire career at Syracuse, all but 1 year?
Yeah, except for freshman year.
Yeah, all but 1 year, and then, what it's been like to watch her return from a significant injury.
Yeah, I've basically done everything with Emma for most of my life. Different sports than when we just started playing lacrosse. She was a year younger, and so with travel ages, we were just on different teams with that, but we would still work together, just one-on-one type stuff. So having her commit to Syracuse, I was super excited to be able to take this kind of next step in her journey and be there with her as she's going through it, and kind of giving her advice as I was there the year before as a freshman, so I kind of understood it. And it's just such a joy to play with her. She's always somewhere on the field that I'll know where she is at all points, and we work very well together. So having her out on the field has been awesome. And then after her injury, losing her was tough, obviously, but we had this mentality of kind of next man up at that point. So seeing her go down, obviously that was tough. But her recovery and the way she went about it, even from the initial day of her injury, was just so inspiring. It was something that really pushed me to really go out there and compete and give everything that I had each day, each game, each practice. And seeing her recovery has been huge. It's something that's, she's not using it or letting it kind of affect her play. It's kind of in the back of her mind almost. She's just so excited to get back out on the field, and I'm so excited to have her back out.
What would you say, obviously, like you said, you guys play so well together. What would you say is the balance between you two? What do you do well versus what does she do well that combine to make such a nice tandem?
Yeah, I think Emma works very well off ball. She's always finding those gaps to cut through, and she also dodges very well as well, but mainly when me and her work together, it's off feeds, off cuts, so kind of knowing where she's going to be cutting or where she's going to be open, she's always kind of just there with her stick up waiting for the ball. And she was initially a midfielder before she moved to attack, so her hustle plays are just unreal. She is very good at cause turnovers and getting those ground balls for us, so having her back on the field for those type of plays is going to be huge.
And then what do you do well? You're allowed to talk about yourself.
I think something that I really focus on is kind of helping people around me, because once you have kind of been playing for a while and there's scouting reports and stuff, you kind of can pick up how defenses might play certain players. So being able to kind of understand if a double is going to come here, or if the slide's going to come early, it's helping those people understand what those next steps are, whether it's a slip cut or something, or holding the space to set up a dodge, or man up on the backside, stuff like that. Kind of just making sure people around me are kind of aware of what's actually going on.
Can you give a little background of how you got started in lacrosse initially? What sports did you grow up playing, and then when did you transition to lacrosse and then travel lacrosse and ultimately
Yeah.
Syracuse?
So ever since I was younger, like the first sport I ever played was soccer. My mom played soccer in high school, and I guess that was something that she just wanted me to do. And I loved it. Like, I still love soccer. I miss it so much. And I kind of like played that mostly throughout my childhood. I tried a couple different things. I danced for a while, actually. And then I kind of I stuck with soccer, like up in travel soccer, especially up until high school. And then lacrosse kind of came into the picture in 6th grade. My friends were playing it. They'd been playing it for a couple years, but I never really thought anything of it because I was just playing soccer and I enjoyed it.
Right.
So when that happened, I was just like, I kind of came home from school one day and I was like, hey, like to my parents, I was like, is it cool like if I like try lacrosse? And they didn't really know what it was either, even though it has evolved into such a big sport on Long Island. Like when I was younger, they didn't really know what it was. And I was like, yeah, like I need like a stick, a goggles, mouthpiece. And they're like, okay, like we went to, I think like Lacrosse Unlimited or something and got, you know, the basics to kind of start playing. And I started out playing for Mount Sinai Lacrosse. I showed up to practice and I initially played defense for lacrosse. So I kind of came in.
As every beginner does.
Yeah. The coach was like, we'll start you on defense, like work on ground balls, like we'll get your stick work going kind of. So I did that for a little while. And then one of the coaches came up to me like during practice and was like, can I talk to like you and your parents, whoever's here after practice? And I was like, sure. I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble or something, like what I do wrong.
Right.
And at the end of practice, I grabbed my dad who was there and we went over to the coach and he was the coach of a Yellow Jackets team at the time. And he was like, I want you to come down to my practice and kind of see what you think about it, see if this is something you want to do. So I was like, okay, like I'll go, no problem. Yeah. So we went and I loved it. I enjoyed it. There was just such a high level of play for that age. And like I was obviously a little bit newer, so I was a little bit intimidated by that. And I was like, wow, like this is really, really cool. Like I could see myself, you know, becoming better and doing this. And I went to the practice. I guess I had a good practice, or he thought so. And he asked me to try out for Yellow Jackets that next tryout, whatever it was, in like November or something. And I was like, talked to my parents about it. I was like, is this something we can do? And they were like, yeah, like if you want to do it, like go ahead. Went to the tryout. Didn't feel like I was like as good as the rest of the people there, like because they'd been playing for a while or they were just better in general. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make this team. Like I was so nervous about it. And I did end up making it. And I kind of pushed myself from there. I played defense for like a year or so for like that summer, maybe the next one, I can't really remember. Yeah. But, and then one day I was just like, okay, like I think I want to play attack. So during one of the Yellow Jackets practices, I just kind of like went over with the attack.
Accidentally went into the shooting drill.
Like, yeah, and I started shooting, and I was like, oh, like this is fun, and like I liked the way that like man up, like we were doing 4v3s, and I just like liked how the whole like system of it worked basically, and I was like, I really like this, and this is something I want to stick with. And I kind of just stuck it out with attack from there, played travel, and then committed to Syracuse.
And now you're here.
And now I'm here.
So throughout all this, obviously you were a very highly touted player in high school. You had a lot of success at Mount Sinai. I'm sure you've had several influential coaches as you've developed, but how would you describe, and we kind of did it earlier, but describe your style of play and, you know, which coaches kind of helped you hone in on that style of play?
Oh man. So something that I like, my first lacrosse coach, he was kind of the one that like put like aggression into my mind basically, and it wasn't like you had to be consistently aggressive like 100% of the time, but like when you were aggressive, like it had to like make an impact. Right. So I think I kind of subconsciously carried that with me into like my style of play now on attack. It's like I can be as aggressive as I want to be, but if I'm going to go for it, I have to like go for it. So I think he was definitely someone that left that kind of impact on me. And then, you know, growing up, just having a bunch of different coaches from Mount Sinai, gosh, there's so many of them. There was Coach Van Middelum, Coach Mitchell, Coach Burlone, Coach Rose for Yellow Jackets. She was huge for me. And then just even like my the players I played with kind of growing up that were like older than me that kind of mentored me a little bit.
Right.
They like kind of learning from each of their styles of plays and kind of taking things I liked or thought would work for me was something that was definitely helpful. And taking all those things, it feels like it's overwhelming to think about, but I'm like just so grateful that I just had that like community around me when I was like growing up with lacrosse.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we grew up on Long Island similarly, and played for the same club, and it's just funny how, you know, a lot of that mentality, I feel the same way, especially, you know, the aggression and working hard and being gritty. You've also gotten the chance to play for now who many people regard as two of the best to play ever, Gary Gait and Kayla Trainer on the respective sides. Talk about, you know, that balance of, you know, it's such a rare opportunity that your class and a few others have getting to play for both of them, and, you know, what's their different style of coaching and how that's helped you develop.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Coach Gait and Coach Kayla, obviously Kayla played for Coach Gait, so like they kind of have similar mentalities, but also like a little bit different, where Gary was kind of more, he kind of like let you go out there and go for it. Like you try this, it works, it doesn't, and that was kind of what it was. And like obviously he would give direction, but it was more of a come into games, we'll have a game plan, but as things go on, like you can kind of figure it out on your own. And then with Coach Kayla, she kind of just has, as playing like women's lacrosse, she has just such a different perspective on it, and like she sees things differently than he did. But both of them combined, like having their experiences and their knowledge has just helped me, and like I'm sure my teammates who I played with, like grow their game like in such a huge way that not a lot of people get to experience. So having like both of those sides of things is just really crazy to think about, and really honored, honestly, to play for both of them.
And something I think, especially Gary, Kayla is also this way, but the mental toughness and like the composure, and I think, you know, watching you play is you're not a player that gets like, you know, isn't that animated. Obviously when your team scores you get excited and you celebrate and everything, but it's not like, some people used to ask me about Gary and they're like, what's going on there? Like, he's not even excited. It's like this crazy game. I'm like, oh no, he's just like, he is excited, laser focused. And so it's just, is that something that you've picked up from them, or is that something that you kind of, it's just a part of your personality?
I think it's a part of my personality more so. I feel like I've kind of always been like this, or like I've kind of learned to be like this because, you know, I've seen players that get super animated and players that don't really get as animated, and I kind of try to find like a middle ground where it's like, yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also like ready for like the next thing. So it kind of just is a part of me, I guess. Right. Which I'm not complaining about. I'm really happy about it, you know. I think being able to like have that composure on the field, like when you're in a position of leadership, is so huge. Like especially if you do have people that get more animated around you, like being able to be someone that they can turn to and be like, okay, like, yeah, I can relax, or like, oh, like she's excited, like let's go, and like kind of bring that energy is something that I think is like really important about my role. Right.
Talk about your development as a leader. You know, coming in as a freshman, obviously you had a really great start to your career, and you know, you've had impressive seasons every year. You've built upon the last, but I think obviously the natural transition is as you get older you become a leader, especially as someone who is a major player. So talk about how you've kind of stepped into a role of leadership the last few years, and you know, what you've had to develop in your playing style, your teammate style, and all of that.
Yeah, so one thing that I really focused on, like just coming into college, was like relationship building. I think in order to be a leader, it's not like something you just like say, like I'm a leader. It's like something that's like kind of earned, and your teammates kind of give that to you after you've earned, you know, their respect, and then they look at you a certain way. So I think from freshman year, building those relationships and kind of seeing how other leaders had led me when I was younger and how I would want to be led, I try to like put that into other people, especially as I've you know, kind of stepped into this role, I guess. So I guess I really kind of recognized my leadership maybe towards like fall ball of my junior year. it was more of like, I think it's a confidence thing too, especially with leadership, because like you can have people look up to you, but like if you don't feel like a leader, it's not really going to go anywhere.
Right.
So
not
I think
authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So kind of building that confidence and understanding like people value what you have to say and they'll respect you and like they want to hear things from you, was something that definitely helped me kind of gain that confidence to really like kind of accept the role that I'm in.
So you've, like we were saying, you know, you've had great seasons all throughout, and you know, the past two specifically, you've scored back-to-back 100-point seasons, which is not easy to do once, let alone twice. Can you talk about your mindset going into games? Obviously, especially, you know, towards the tail end of last year with all the injuries, like some teams are just, you know, trying to eliminate you from the offense, you know, which is hard as an attacker, as a goal scorer, and that's how you provide for your team. Talk about what your mindset is, knowing that that is, you know, out there, and how you stay composed, and, you know, just what that is like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just kind of comes down to also having confidence in your teammates too. So when there's teams that are trying to shut me out of the offense or kind of take me away from it, just knowing that there's 6 other girls on the field that can score, that can beat you, that can, you know, make those feeds into the middle. Having that confidence in them to kind of like know that they can do this is something that we tried to like spread, especially like between my sophomore and junior year. And more so, I guess, on my end, when it comes to being in that position, it's more of a, I want to work hard to help my team, to help, you know, draw double teams or draw sides, get the ball, like just cause like kind of like chaos almost. So I guess when like that happens of getting shut out of offenses or stuff like that, it's just having that faith in my other teammates that can definitely score, can definitely get to the net, while also making sure like I'm working as hard as I can to help like the entire offense.
So we're 16 days away from the home opener, I think.
Yes.
Against Northwestern. The last time you guys played wasn't the best for you guys. You know, talk about what practice has been like. Is that something that's been like a conversation of, you know, motivation, and what just the vibe of starting up has been?
Yeah, I think, you know, everyone's just itching for game day. You know, when preseason comes, you hit January, everyone's like, I just want to get on the field, I want to play like competition, I want to have a good game. And I think especially coming off last year, we have so many returners who were at that game and who were playing in that game who really felt the weight of what that was. And to be able to have so many people come back and have that, whether it's in the back of their mind or the forefront, it's definitely motivation to push people harder in practice. And, you know, we come in every day and we're ready to, like, we want to play, like we want to get out there. And I think last year's team to this year's team is going to be completely different. So I'm like, I think everyone, I'm speaking for them, but I think everyone's just ready to get back out there and kind of show something.
Yeah, I always would say, I feel like the 4-5 game was always the hardest game to lose, because it was just like, I mean, it's usually like a pretty even, you know, obviously Northwestern had the better day that day, but it's usually 2 very evenly matched teams, and it's just like either one could make the Final Four, and just to fall short in the quarterfinals is always really hard. So let's pretend it is game day, February 11th. You know, what are you doing pre-game to get ready? Give us an idea of what time's the game? Probably early afternoon.
Yeah.
Give us a little rundown of, you know, what your morning, your build up to game day is going to be like.
Oh gosh, I'm like getting like an adrenaline rush right now.
I know, it's exciting to think about.
Yeah, so I guess on game day, something that I do, like when I wake up, is just kind of, my first thought is like, oh my gosh, like I get to play today. Like I'm so excited to play today.
Right.
And so I get up, kind of like get ready. I'll probably go have like breakfast or something. And then when it comes down to like time to like get ready for the game, I will like blast music in my room, like get myself hyped up, and then head over to the dome where we like, as a team, we sit in the locker room, we like talk about the game, we listen to music, and kind of just mentally prepare ourselves to go out there and really show what we've been working on for the past 8 months, whatever.
Yeah. Do you have any, you know, you're sitting in the locker room with your team, like you were a big dancer growing up. Are you the dancer in the locker room, or is that not quite your role?
I wouldn't say that. I think there's other people that would say that they dance more than I do in the locker room. I'm more of
never me either, so.
Yeah, no, I think I'm more of like a conversation person. Like I'll go up and be like, oh, like, how are you feeling about today? Are you excited to get out there? Kind of just like put some good thoughts into their head and kind of keep speaking good things out into the air.
Okay. Pre-game music, what's the vibe?
Pre-game music, definitely some form of rap music. I don't know what it's going to be this year. But I'm sure I'll figure it out when the day comes.
So you're not going to be the one that's doing like TikToks in the locker room, is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's not really up my alley on game day. Maybe on like other days, but definitely not game day.
It's way out of my wheelhouse. So if you do them, I won't see them. So let's talk about your most memorable lacrosse game. This doesn't have to be Syracuse if it's not Syracuse. You won't. We can do a Syracuse one and then a growing up one if you have multiple, or you can really just take it wherever you want.
I think just off the top of my head, the most memorable one that comes to mind is definitely when we played Maryland, my sophomore year, like right before COVID. We were supposed to host them here, but then there was like some travel issues, so we had to go down to Maryland and play there. And I hadn't played them yet because we didn't play them my freshman year, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
So it was like my first time playing Maryland, and I knew like the history of Syracuse and Maryland, and being able to play them was just like something that I was really excited about, and especially to have, you know, and represent Syracuse doing it. It was just something that I was really excited about, whether it was in the Dome or down in Maryland. So, and then we ended up winning that game, which was like such a huge like motivation thing for our team, and it was just like such a pride because we did have some alumni come and like they were so happy, and to be able to see everyone in the stands is just something that I'll probably never forget.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's probably one.
My parents were there. Did you see that? I'm just kidding.
No, but that's probably one from college that I'll remember like forever. And then, oh man, there's obviously the national championship. That one,
right?
Can't forget
it's memorable.
that.
Yes.
And then I think another one was in the ACC championship game when we were, or the one before that, when we were playing BC, and it was like down to the wire. So I think playing that and like being in that atmosphere was also something that's really memorable for me. Just like the emotion that was there and seeing people in the stands that were there for us, because Carolina's not exactly like the easiest environment to go in and play in.
Right.
So having like all that orange support there, and then the sideline was crazy, and you know, on the field we all felt confident. So that was definitely something I'll never forget too.
Yeah, those are good answers. All good games. So you talk about national championship as a memory. Talk about the value, and this is something that I think goes so underrated. The value of knowing what it's like. Obviously, it's not everyone on the team that has experienced it, but there's a good chunk of players that know what it's like to break into the Final Four. I think there's so many teams that are always on the cusp but can't get that next step forward. Once they do, then they're there for a few years, or you know. So talk about what that experience, how that gives you guys an edge, or do you feel like it gives you an edge?
Yeah, I think like experience really is everything when it comes down to it. So being able to have been on a team that did make it that far, that did go to the Final Four, that did make it to the national championship game, and kind of seeing the work that was put into it, and like the kind of leadership that went with that too, and just like the dedication that each person had on that team, no matter what their role was something that I took and I try to emulate today. To, you know, get back to being a Final Four team, to get back to a national championship game, because at the end of the day, like, I came to Syracuse because I want to win a national championship, and I have faith that this program, this team is something that I think is possible.
You're talking to Kayla's got a recruit on campus, and she's like, Meg, come on, seal the deal for me. You know, how would you describe what it's like playing? What's the culture here like? What is, you know, playing for Kayla and Caitlin and Kenzie? What is playing for the Syracuse Orange like?
There's really, I guess what I would say to her, or this recruit, is that there's really no feeling like it to come into an environment that has so much history, especially with lacrosse and with women's lacrosse, and to have such a background of people that will be there cheering you, supporting you through the ups and the downs, and knowing you're surrounded by 35-ish other girls that are all here for the same reason and that show up each day because they know they want to win, they know they want to get better and compete each day to get back to a championship type of team, is something that it's hard to find in other places. And to have it at Syracuse and to play for Kayla and to play for Kenzie and Coach Defo, like, they've seen it all. They've been in all these different kind of game situations, and you don't really find that at a lot of schools. So having that here is just something that sealed the deal for me. Having all that history and that culture and the family aspects of Syracuse is just something you're not going to find anywhere else.
What's next for you?
Oh man, what's next for me? I haven't really thought too far into that yet.
Right.
Kind of taking things
You have plenty of time. But
day by day right now.
Right.
Just focusing on the now kind of and seeing where it takes me.
Fair enough. So unfortunately, this is, the last chance for you to be a part of the first women's national championship for Syracuse lacrosse. Obviously that's an awesome opportunity, but how does it feel? And what is that as you deal with that mentally? Obviously you're trying to take it day by day, but I'm sure it still is, it's there. It's a present feeling of, that there's a guaranteed endpoint. Last year you had the option and this is the endpoint. So talk about, what that is like, for good or for bad.
Yeah, I think kind of, knowing there's an end to something is always kind of scary, because that means something new is going to happen and you're not really sure what that is yet. But I think I'm just more so fortunate to even have the opportunity to have this extra year. And, obviously when that does come to an end, it'll be sad. But I think something that's not really something that I want to focus on right now. I kind of want to keep things positive and high energies throughout this all, but it's definitely something to think about, especially because you're entering your next phase of life. Right. So knowing there's an end is definitely scary, but kind of pushing that off and just focusing on all the good things that can happen in between now and then. For sure. Is just much more comforting than thinking about the end.
Yeah, there is certainly a lot of good things that can happen from today to the end of May. So yes. You got plenty of time to make that happen. Well, best of luck this season, and thanks for sitting down.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.